Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Speaking Flow. If you are listening to us while driving, cooking, or maybe just sitting quietly with a warm cup of coffee, we want to thank you for inviting us into your day. This podcast is your safe space. It is a place where we take a deep breath, slow down, and look at language learning not as a stressful academic subject, but as a beautiful, sometimes messy, human experience.
Hello to all our wonderful listeners around the world. Today, we are going to explore a topic that is deeply personal for so many of you. We are going to talk about a paradox, a very strange, very frustrating paradox in the language learning journey. Have you ever noticed that the students who get the highest scores on written grammar tests are very often the ones who struggle the most to speak fluently in real life?
It is incredibly common, and it is so painful. You study the rules. You know exactly when to use the present perfect continuous. You know all your irregular verbs. But when you are standing in front of a real person, trying to have a real conversation, your brain freezes. You speak at a painfully slow speed. Every single word feels heavy. Today, we are going to unpack exactly why this happens. We are talking about the perfectionism trap.
The perfectionism trap. It sounds like a psychological concept, and honestly, it is. When you are caught in this trap, you become your own worst enemy. You become your own harshest critic. Instead of just letting your thoughts flow out of your mouth, you literally self-edit every single sentence before you allow yourself to speak it. You are running a constant, exhausting quality control check inside your head.
I want you to imagine your brain as a large, busy factory. The products being made in this factory are your thoughts, your stories, and your ideas. Now, the assembly line is moving. The products are ready to go out the door. But right at the exit, standing in front of the door, is a very strict, angry quality control inspector holding a red pen and a thick rulebook.
That inspector is your perfectionism. Before a sentence is allowed to leave your mouth, the inspector stops the assembly line. He looks at the sentence and says, "Wait a minute. Is this the right preposition? Did you remember to put the "is" on the third-person singular verb? Are you sure you shouldn't use the past perfect here?" And if the sentence is not 100% mathematically perfect, he rejects it. He throws it in the trash, and the whole factory has to stop and start over.
And that sudden stop in the factory, that moment when the inspector halts the assembly line, that is the long, awkward silence you experience in your conversations. That is the hesitation. You are thinking so intensely about how to say something perfectly that you completely lose the momentum of what you actually wanted to say. You sacrifice your fluency, your rhythm, and your personality, all for the sake of grammar.
There is actually a famous theory in linguistics about this, proposed by Dr. Stephen Krashen. It is called the monitor hypothesis. Dr. Krashen explains that as learners, we develop an internal monitor. When this monitor is overused, the speaker is so concerned with correctness that they can barely speak at all. They speak slowly, they hesitate constantly, and they correct themselves mid-sentence, which makes them very difficult to listen to.
Exactly. An overactive monitor completely destroys the natural flow of human connection. But here is the most important part of our conversation today. We do not blame you for having this strict inspector in your head. We completely understand why he is there. You were trained to be this way. We all were. Let's trace this back to the root cause of the traditional education system.
Think about how you were taught English in school. For 5, 10, maybe 15 years, English was presented to you not as a tool for connecting with other humans, but as a rigid set of mathematical formulas. You were put in a classroom, given a piece of paper, and told to fill in the blanks. If you made a mistake, the teacher marked it with a big, bright red pen. A mistake meant a lower grade. A mistake meant failure. A mistake meant you were not smart enough.
Your brain was conditioned, year after year, to associate grammatical errors with shame and punishment. You were trained to pass written exams, where you have minutes or hours to carefully analyze a sentence. But real-life conversation is not a written exam. Real life happens at the speed of sound. You don't have 5 minutes to choose between an on or at. You have less than a second.
And when you try to apply the slow, analytical rules of a written exam to a fast-paced, real-time conversation, your cognitive system simply crashes. The human working memory can only hold a very small amount of information at once. If you are using all of your brain's RAM, all of your working memory to calculate grammar rules, there is literally no processing power left to focus on the other person's emotions, their facial expressions, or the actual meaning of the conversation.
It is exhausting. Speaking English becomes a stressful performance instead of a joyful interaction. So, how do we break free from this? How do we fire that strict quality inspector living in our heads and get our speaking flow back? It requires a massive shift in your mindset. You have to actively unlearn what the school system taught you.
The very first step to escaping the perfectionism trap is to change your ultimate goal. For years, your goal has been perfection. You wanted to speak without making a single error. Today, we need you to delete that goal completely. Throw it away. Your new only goal is connection.
Connection over perfection. Let me give you a very clear example of what this looks like in reality. Imagine you are telling a colleague about your weekend. You want to say that you went to the store and bought some apples. But in the moment, you get nervous and you say, yesterday, I go to the store and buy apples.
Okay, let's analyze that. Did you use the wrong verb tense? Yes, absolutely. You should have said went and bought. The grammar inspector in your head is screaming and waving his red pen. But let me ask you the real question. Did the listener understand that you were at a store in the past and you purchased fruit? Yes! 100%.
The communication was completely successful. You transferred the image from your brain into their brain. You built the bridge. And let me tell you a secret that might shock you: native speakers do not care about your grammar mistakes. They really don't. Unless you are writing a formal legal contract or a university thesis, everyday conversation is incredibly forgiving.
It is so true. Native speakers are not secretly grading you. They are not counting how many times you forgot an article. They are listening to your story. They are looking at your smile. They want to know your opinions. In fact, native English speakers make grammatical mistakes all the time. We use dangling modifiers. We mix up our tenses when we are telling a fast story. We start a sentence one way and finish it completely differently.
We literally break the rules every single day because spoken language is fluid. It is alive. It is not supposed to be perfectly neat and tidy like a textbook. When you obsess over grammar, you actually sound less natural. You sound like a robot. But when you let go, when you allow yourself to make mistakes, your true personality shines through. You become human.
So, how do we train the brain to actually believe this? How do we build the habit of speaking without over-monitoring? Step number 2 is a highly effective daily practice called free speaking. You need to create a safe environment where your brain learns that making a mistake does not result in pain or embarrassment.
Here is how you do the free speaking exercise. It is very simple, but it is challenging for perfectionists. You need to be alone in your room or in your car. Set a timer on your phone for exactly 2 minutes. Choose any random, easy topic. It could be why I love coffee, or my favorite movie, or what I did this morning. Press start and begin talking out loud.
But here is the golden rule of the free speaking exercise. You cannot stop. You cannot pause to look up a word. And most importantly, You are absolutely forbidden from correcting yourself. If you say a sentence completely wrong, you are not allowed to go back and fix it. You just have to keep moving forward. You have to force the assembly line to keep running, even if the product is a little bit broken.
The first time you do this, it will feel very uncomfortable. Your internal inspector will be screaming. You will want to stop and apologize to the empty room. But you must push through it. If you forget a word, you describe it. If you completely ruin a sentence, you laugh at yourself and start the next sentence. You are building the muscle of resilience.
You are teaching your nervous system that fluency is about forward momentum. If you do this 2-minute exercise every single day for a month, you will see a massive transformation in your real-life conversations. Because when you are finally sitting in front of a real person and you make a grammar mistake, your brain will no longer panic. It will say, "Oh, I know this feeling." We just keep moving.
I also highly recommend step number 3, which is setting a mistake quota. A quota is a target number you have to hit. Every morning, when you wake up, I want you to look in the mirror and say, "Today, my goal is to make at least 5 grammar mistakes when I speak English."
That sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it is a brilliant psychological trick. You are taking the thing you are most afraid of, making a mistake, and turning it into a goal. If you make a mistake, you didn't fail, you achieved your quota. It completely removes the fear. Once you give yourself permission to be messy, the anxiety disappears. And ironically, when the anxiety disappears, your grammar naturally improves because your brain is relaxed.
It is the beautiful irony of language learning. The less you care about perfect grammar, the better you speak. The more you let go of control, the more control you actually have over the flow of your words. You have spent enough years carrying the heavy weight of the red pen. It is time to put it down.
Your English does not need to be flawless to be beautiful. It does not need to be perfect to be powerful. It just needs to be authentic. It needs to be you. The world wants your ideas, your humor, and your unique perspective. Do not hide those things behind a wall of silence just because you are afraid of using the wrong verb tense.
We challenge you this week to step out into the world and be proudly, beautifully imperfect. Make those mistakes with a smile. Let the words flow, let the assembly line run, and fire that strict inspector in your head once and for all. You have outgrown him.
Thank you so deeply for joining us today on The Speaking Flow. It takes courage to look at our own fears and perfectionism, and we are so proud of you for doing that work with us today. If this episode touched your heart or changed your perspective, please share it with a friend who might be trapped in the perfectionism cycle too.
And we would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments below. What is one grammar rule that always trips you up? Let's laugh about it together. Remember, focus on connection, practice your free speaking, and give yourself the grace to be human.
We will be right here waiting for you in the next episode. Until then, keep speaking, keep flowing, and have a truly wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye for now.